Have you ever wondered if alien technology is hiding in plain sight and scientists are only now waking up to it?
Today, you're going to see it up close and personal. Now, of course, I'm talking about the Buga Sphere. That's right. We have the one and only Jaime Maussan with us, and he's bringing the Buga Sphere right here.
What if a mysterious sphere from Colombia just matched what Bob Lazar described decades ago? Stick around, because today we're diving into the Buga Sphere mystery.
To present initial scientific findings surrounding the object now known as the Buga Sphere, a mysterious flying sphere recovered in the town of Buga, Colombia.
Lazar's claims, and whether recent findings lend them new weight. Who is Bob Lazar, and why people still listen? Bob Lazar's story begins in 1989, when he appeared in a Las Vegas television interview, initially under the pseudonym Dennis. Sitting in the shadows, his face hidden, he described working at a secret installation known as S4, just south of Area 51. According to Lazar, this was no ordinary military lab. Hidden inside were 9 alien spacecraft, stored like museum pieces waiting to be dissected. His job, he said, was to reverse engineer the propulsion systems, to figure out how they worked and whether humans could replicate the technology. The descriptions he gave were breathtaking. Flying saucers powered by a reactor that could bend space and time itself. The centerpiece of Lazar's testimony was an unknown fuel he called Element 115. At the time, no such element was on the periodic table. He claimed this mysterious substance could generate gravity waves, which were then harnessed to create propulsion without rockets, jets, or combustion. It was, in his words, a window into a science so advanced it might as well have been magic. For believers, it was a revelation. For skeptics, it was a red flag. Could one man really have stumbled onto secrets that even the world's greatest scientists hadn't dreamed of? Criticism of Lazar came swiftly. Journalists and researchers tried to verify his credentials, only to find gaping holes. The universities he claimed to have attended, MIT and CALTECH, had no records of him. Los Alamos National Laboratory, where he said he worked, insisted there was no trace of his employment. To skeptics, this was proof he was lying. To his supporters, it was evidence of a cover-up, a deliberate erasure of his past. Over time, the debate around Lazar's story hardened into 2 camps, one that saw him as a fraud, and another that saw him as a whistleblower silenced by forces bigger than any individual. What is the Buga Sphere? Fast forward to 2025, and the quiet Colombian city of Buga suddenly found itself thrust into the global spotlight. Residents reported a strange event, a metallic object streaking across the sky before landing in a rural area. When locals approached, they found what looked like a perfectly rounded metallic sphere, gleaming in the sunlight and far heavier than it appeared. Videos of the discovery began circulating online, sparking waves of speculation almost instantly. What was this object, and why had no government agency rushed forward to claim responsibility? The object quickly earned the nickname the Buga Sphere. Early reports described it as seamless, with no visible joints, rivets, or openings. Some who got close claimed it emitted faint heat, while others insisted that when scientists began to examine it, their instruments experienced unusual interference. Rumors spread that when the sphere was scanned, it revealed fiber-like structures inside, delicate strands that looked less like natural formations and more like engineered components. While none of this has been formally confirmed in peer-reviewed studies, the whispers alone were enough to set the UFO community ablaze with excitement. What made the Buga Sphere particularly compelling was the lack of quick explanations. Normally, when space debris falls to Earth, agencies like NASA or private companies step in to identify it. In this case, no such announcement was made. Was it a rogue satellite, a fragment of a rocket, or was it something entirely different, something we had never encountered before? The absence of answers gave the mystery oxygen, and soon the object wasn't just a local oddity, it was the latest chapter in humanity's endless fascination with the unknown, where Bob Lazar and the Buga Sphere seemed to align. The reason the Buga Sphere ignited global fascination so quickly wasn't just its strange appearance. It was the eerie way its rumored features seemed to echo the claims Bob Lazar made decades earlier. When Lazar described alien technology, he spoke of materials that didn't behave like anything on Earth. He described reactors powered by substances we couldn't replicate, geometries and engineering that defied human logic. The idea of a metallic sphere containing optical fibers or strange isotopic ratios fit neatly into the image he painted of extraterrestrial machinery. One of the most striking connections comes from Lazar's mention of element 115. When he revealed it in 1989, the element didn't officially exist. More than a decade later, scientists did synthesize moscovium, atomic number 115. It was unstable, decaying in less than a blink of an eye. But to Lazar's supporters, the fact that science eventually caught up to his claim at all is evidence that he was telling at least part of the truth. Now, with rumors swirling that the Buga Sphere contains unusual isotopes or elements outside Earth's natural balance, the dots begin to connect for those inclined to believe. Skeptics argue that parallels like these are coincidences, or worse, the product of imagination layered on incomplete data. After all, saying a strange metal was found is vague enough to fit many narratives. But for those who have followed Lazar's story for decades, the Buga Sphere feels like a validation, a tangible piece of evidence that may finally support claims dismissed for so long. Whether coincidence or confirmation, the alignment between Lazar's words and the rumors about the sphere has reopened a debate the world thought it had left behind. What scientists say. For scientists, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that is where the Buga Sphere and Lazar's testimony both run into walls. Element 115, for example, does exist, but in its known forms, it is wildly unstable. Physicists explain that for Lazar's story to hold, there would need to be a stable isotope of moscovium that has never been detected. The odds are slim, but not impossible. Still, until such an isotope is found and tested, Lazar's reactor remains more of a thought experiment than a scientific breakthrough. Beyond element 115, scientists also take issue with the physics Lazar described. He spoke of spacecraft generating their own gravity, manipulating waves to bend space, and essentially creating shortcuts through the universe. While general relativity does allow for concepts like warped space-time, the energy required would be astronomical, far beyond anything a small reactor could provide. To many physicists, his words sounded less like the testimony of an insider and more like the plot of a science fiction novel. Yet the lack of scientific validation hasn't silenced curiosity. Some argue that Lazar could have misunderstood what he saw, describing alien technology in the limited terms of human science. Others suggest that discrediting him became a matter of protecting secrets rather than revealing truth. The same tension now surrounds the Buga Sphere. Scientists are urging caution, reminding the public that most strange objects have mundane explanations. But until detailed studies are published, the door remains open for speculation. And speculation is what fuels the fire of belief. The new confirmations. When the first rumors of the Buga Sphere spread, headlines quickly declared that scientists had confirmed its alien origin. These dramatic claims made for exciting reading, but rarely linked back to solid evidence. In many cases, the stories traced back to UFO forums, speculative blogs, or viral social media posts. The supposed confirmations often boiled down to hearsay or leaked notes from unnamed sources. To those seeking truth, this was frustrating. To those seeking mystery, it was thrilling. Some stories claimed the sphere disrupted electronics, shutting down drones or garbling radios when brought nearby. Others insisted that scans revealed geometrical structures inside, far too precise to be natural. These claims painted the object as a puzzle box waiting to be unlocked. Yet when journalists reached out to scientists for comment, the responses were cautious. They explained that interference could come from simple magnetism, while internal reflections could create illusions on scans. Without transparent, reproducible results, none of the more fantastic claims could be considered proven. This is where the line between belief and science becomes sharp. Believers often argue that governments or institutions suppress such discoveries, hiding the truth from the public. Skeptics counter that extraordinary results demand peer review, replication, and transparency, things conspiracy theories rarely allow. For now, the so-called confirmations surrounding the Buga Sphere exist in the realm of rumor. That doesn't mean they are false, but it does mean they cannot yet stand as evidence in the eyes of science. What it would take for Lazar to be right. For Bob Lazar's claims to cross the line from speculation into validation, the first requirement would be physical evidence that can stand up to rigorous scientific testing. A mysterious object like the Buga Sphere would need to undergo thorough analysis in laboratories around the world, not just in one place. If independent teams all reached the same conclusion, that the material contains exotic isotopes or elements unknown to Earth, then it would open the door to considering Lazar's testimony more seriously. Without this kind of repeated confirmation, any unusual findings could too easily be dismissed as mistakes, hoaxes, or natural phenomena. The second step would be demonstrating properties that defy our current understanding of technology. Lazar spoke of alien craft bending gravity itself, powered by reactors fueled with a stable isotope of element 115. If the Buga Sphere were shown to possess materials that can manipulate energy in bizarre, unexplained ways, that would echo his original claims. Scientists would need to measure these properties under controlled conditions, showing beyond doubt that they're not just accidents of design or quirks of nature. Evidence of such extraordinary capabilities would be the strongest link between the object and Lazar's descriptions. A third requirement would be absolute transparency in how the object is handled. Too many supposed alien artifacts in the past have disappeared into secrecy, with no way for outside experts to verify them. If the Buga Sphere is truly extraordinary, then publishing open studies, sharing samples with global institutions, and documenting the chain of custody would be essential. Without this openness, skeptics will always argue that claims are exaggerated or manipulated. Transparency would shift the conversation from conspiracy theory to legitimate scientific debate, and it would give Lazar's story its first real foundation of credibility. Finally, to truly vindicate Lazar, there would need to be a practical breakthrough. If scientists could use a stable isotope of element 115 to build functioning propulsion systems, then his wild-sounding claims about reverse engineering alien technology would be undeniable. This step would go beyond proving that exotic materials exist. It would show that the principles Lazar described are real and usable. At that point, history would likely view him in a completely new light, not as a fringe figure, but as someone who tried to reveal truths the world wasn't ready to hear. Why people want to believe. Part of what keeps the story alive is not just the evidence, but the human desire for mystery. From ancient myths to modern science fiction, humanity has always longed for proof that we are not alone. Lazar's story plays perfectly into that longing. It promises that extraordinary technology is already here, hidden just beyond our reach, waiting for us to catch up. The Buga Sphere, real or not, carries the same magnetic pull. It is something you can see, touch, and imagine unlocking, like a key to a cosmic door. Social media magnifies this desire. A blurry photo of lights in the sky might grab attention, but a gleaming metallic sphere lying in a Colombian field is something people can rally around. Videos of locals pushing the heavy orb onto trucks, images of scientists wheeling it into labs, these visuals give the mystery substance. And once people believe they are looking at alien technology, it becomes nearly impossible to convince them otherwise without overwhelming evidence. In a way, this cycle says as much about us as it does about the sphere. It reveals our hunger for stories that expand our world, our readiness to embrace the extraordinary even when the evidence is thin. Whether or not the Buga Sphere is truly alien, it is already a cultural artifact, proof of how deeply humans yearn for the universe to reveal its secrets. Despite the excitement, science continues to ask sober questions. What exactly is the Buga Sphere made of? Has anyone conducted mass spectrometry or isotopic analysis to confirm its composition? Are the alleged fiber-like structures genuine internal components, or could they be cracks, inclusions, or contamination from their impact? Until these questions are answered under controlled conditions, speculation remains speculation. Another important question is whether the sphere has a terrestrial origin. Space debris is far more common than most people realize. Thousands of satellites orbit Earth, and fragments of rockets frequently re-enter the atmosphere. Could the Buga Sphere simply be a piece of hardware from an untracked launch? Could it be a fuel tank, a pressure vessel, or even an experimental device that broke free of its creators? The lack of immediate identification is unusual, but it is not proof of alien origin. Finally, scientists must ask about transparency. If the sphere is under study, where are the reports? Who has access? If the findings are extraordinary, why haven't they been published in reputable journals? These questions don't dismiss the mystery, they protect it. Without clear answers, the sphere risks being lost in rumor. With them, it could become one of the most important discoveries in history: government silence and public curiosity. While scientists debate the origins of the Buga Sphere, one of the most striking aspects is how quiet official agencies have been. In past cases of unusual aerial or space objects, authorities often step in quickly with an explanation, labeling it as space junk, a satellite fragment, or a weather balloon. With the Buga Sphere, however, responses have been vague and slow, fueling suspicions that something more is going on behind the scenes. For UFO enthusiasts, this silence feels familiar, echoing decades of government secrecy surrounding Area 51 and the alleged crash at Roswell. The lack of transparency only drives curiosity higher. Every unanswered question becomes fertile ground for speculation, and the more people dig, the more connections they find between Lazar's testimony and modern events. Social media amplifies this dynamic, spreading rumors faster than official reports can catch up. The result is a cycle where mystery thrives precisely because authorities choose not to provide detailed information. This silence raises a fascinating possibility. Could governments already suspect that the Buga Sphere is not entirely of this world? And are they waiting for scientists to catch up before saying anything? Or is the truth much simpler, that it's just another piece of space debris, and officials see no need to dignify wild theories with a response? Either way, the quiet has become part of the story, and for many, it's the most telling clue of all. Still, it is impossible not to dream. Imagine if the Buga Sphere did turn out to be extraterrestrial. Imagine if its alloys were unlike any found on Earth, its design suggesting purposes beyond our comprehension. That would not only validate Lazar's story, but change the course of human history. It would prove, once and for all, that we are not alone and that others have walked the stars before us. On the other hand, it is also possible that the sphere is only partly unusual. Perhaps it contains alloys rare on Earth, but still natural, or structures that look alien, but are actually the result of unusual heating and cooling in the atmosphere. In that case, the sphere would still be fascinating, but not revolutionary. Lazar's claims would remain tantalizing but unproven, hovering in the space between possibility and myth. And then, of course, there is the hoax scenario. It would not be the first time that a mysterious artifact was presented as alien, only to later be revealed as man-made. If the Buga Sphere turns out to be a piece of industrial debris or an elaborate prank, it will join the long list of disappointments in UFO lore. But until we know for sure, the possibility remains alive. And it is that possibility that keeps people watching, hoping, and believing. So where does all of this leave us? Bob Lazar's story remains one of the most polarizing tales in the UFO world. His testimony is either the most elaborate hoax of its kind or a whistleblower's attempt to reveal the greatest secret in human history. Decades later, no one has definitively proven him right or wrong. That uncertainty keeps his legend alive, and the Buga Sphere has breathed new life into it. As for the sphere itself, its mystery remains unsolved. We know it exists, or at least that something fitting its description was discovered. We know rumors about its properties are spreading faster than verifiable facts. What we don't know is whether it truly represents alien technology or simply another case of mistaken identity in the endless search for the unknown. Until clear evidence emerges, it will remain a mirror for our hopes and fears, reflecting whatever we most want to see. Perhaps that is the real lesson. The universe is vast, and mysteries will always find us. Whether the Buga Sphere proves Lazar right or fades into obscurity, it has already accomplished something powerful. It has reminded us that curiosity is alive, that belief still burns, and that humanity will never stop asking the question, what if we are not alone? In the end, the mystery of Bob Lazar and the Buga Sphere reminds us how fragile the limit is between myth and possibility. Whether the sphere proves to be a relic of advanced technology or just another piece of space debris, it has already stirred imaginations and reopened debates that many thought were settled decades ago. What makes this story endure is not only the search for evidence, but also the human desire to believe that our universe holds secrets still waiting to be uncovered. The truth may take years or even decades to fully reveal itself. But until then, the questions themselves are enough to keep the wonder alive. So, what do you think? Is the Buga Sphere the missing piece that finally vindicates Bob Lazar? Or is it just another mystery inflated by rumor and hope? If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to subscribe and share your theory in the comments. I'd love to hear what you believe.